JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Thursday, January 29th, 3:33. On this fine afternoon, really quick rant here. Don't actually have too much time here. Talk quick about the market. Some names I'm looking at go from there. SP down about a half percent, well, a little more than half percent. Taking on the chin after earnings yesterday. NASDAQ down over 1%. Yeah, interesting session, right? I mean, futures were lower at the open and then just accelerated. And um, actually, was the S&P green or was flat? But it was kind of a slow at the start and then it accelerated. And something that I talked about the weighting of some of these mega cap names, right? Tesla, Microsoft, Meta make up 10% of the weighting on the S&P. So because of that, when you have these swings, the S&P moves pretty big. So some of that I think was the Tesla reversal, but then also take a look at the commodity space, right? Gold, silver, massive moves. I mean, I think there was a 9% 1 hour intraday swing on gold. Who would well, close to what, 5,500 down to 5,100 and bounced. Funny enough, you take a look, gold right now is almost, I think it's flat, right? So despite the big swings, and to me, you look at VIX, and VIX is up 5% today. So, if you peel back the onion, and you look at the market, I'm like, it looks, some of these names and the swings that we saw today, it seemed volatile, but when the market closes and pending any crazy moves here in the last 26 minutes, nothing, no, not a crash, not a 2-3% down day. Maybe it's the start of a session that might happen tomorrow or Monday or Tuesday, but yeah, not too. And some of the names too that you would think would be taken on a chin held up. And I'll talk about the puts really quick on some of the names I got them, but those held up relatively well. But after the close today, Apple reports earnings. I don't even know how much direction Apple will give the markets up or down. I don't know how much, to me, like, I don't think it's going to be a catalyst. I think we're either going to have continuation of the action today. So that means either continued digestion of the earnings from Microsoft, right? And I think that's probably the bigger piece that's shaking markets a little bit. And, is that it, right? And you take a look here at the last 15, 20 minutes or so, Microsoft's been bouncing. So maybe that's a sign we find some footing tomorrow. So that's kind of overall markets. I always talk about, and I say always be hedging. 693 was the first big spot, and then we were sitting at 690 all day. Not all day, past 10 o'clock. So I waited for that to break before I started getting some put hedges. And then 686, and we got down to 684.83 and bounce. It just seems like today is. I want to get puts and hold, but the puts paid reversed. I want to get calls when we start to bounce, and some of the names I'm looking at not bouncing as much as I thought or as much as I would like them to. So thankfully, sat on my hands here into the afternoon. All right, that's quick. That's overall market. I don't know why I have this here, but I posted this earlier. So this is a good example of trying to chase, especially high beta names, names that have a lot of volatility priced into the calls or puts. But Meta was a name I was looking since the morning to play for possible calls, and I haven't traded Meta since the ticker was FB, right, when it was Facebook. So, oh, maybe I have, at least not recently. But sitting there at 7:15 earlier in the morning, and if I was looking at the 760, 755s, these are 765 strikes. So pretty much they opened at the highs, even though the stock was at 720 or whatever it opened at. And even at the lows, it went down to 16 cents, and then they bounced and they're 45 cents now. So of course, if you timed it exactly at the bottom and got to 765s, they look nice. But to the timing, if you just timed it a couple minutes either side, you're either flat or you're red on a position, despite the stock bouncing 20 something dollars from the low. So again, just another example of trying to play bounces, and you think, okay, it's easy to do a bounce, but you're fighting the time element, and it's like the salmon trying to fight up the stream, right? The water's coming at you. It looks like you're doing a lot of work, but then you look and you're still in the same spot where you started because the water's working against you, right? So water in this example is time, and tough. So that's why option trading is tough. If you can't find a name that's moving as we head into Friday, it is moving, but it's got to move more than the time element. All right. So that was Meta. So just quick on individual names. I don't know. I have the serve chart here first, but I was actually looking for some serve calls intraday. I had those February strikes I locked yesterday, thankfully, and all the way up to 1190 by 12 o'clock. And I just kind of sat on my hands and boom, just hit lows here, 1110. I was looking earlier, the 200-day moving average is 1110. So maybe that's a good sign. I'm not going to add any calls here into the close just because I want to see how tomorrow opens, and are we going to gap lower, which we've seen before. You have the Thursday close and a nice gap and reversal day on Friday, that would be one of the better scenarios, at least for trying to trade some lottos. So I'll just sit on my hands there, but a good sign. Not a. Of course, I hate to see serve down. Was it 8% now? Wow. I think it was down. It was up 7% on Monday. Was that it? Tuesday. All right. Well, anyway, so just noted that it's a 200-day moving average. Maybe finally the opportunity to play for bounce, but all will depend on tomorrow's action. All right, so that's that. So just quick on the put head side, and Microsoft's still going here, still bounce from 423 to 429 here in the last 10 minutes or so. All right. So when we were at 690 on the SPY, I'm looking for some put hedges. I always ABH, always be hedging. ASML, Lam Research, AMD, Broadcom. Those typically are the names I look for put hedges. And Broadcom's been kind of like stubborn. So then I start looking. ASML and Lam Research are green. ASML is tough because increments, wide increments, expensive. I was looking at strikes $100 out of money. They were expensive. But then it looked like, okay, at 690, it started to find some weakness. I think it was 1435 or so when I got the puts. I went and got those 1340s, and then boom, it dropped $10. I locked some of those puts in to cover costs, dropped into the teens. I think it was 1410, locked some more in for 200%, and then we start to bounce. So, today wasn't a day where I looked and thought, hey, we're going to have a big down day and continuation Friday, and I thought there was going to be opportunities to play for bounces. So I closed those puts out, so ASML served its purpose plus profits. Also, take a look at the chart, and I always say this, right? Back when I did the puts back in November, December on ASML, it was $1,000 stock. Here it is 40% higher, and maybe it's a $2,000 stock at the end of the year. Who knows? But just because it's one of the best businesses out there, one of the biggest European company, it's almost a monopoly in regards to the AI space and in regards to the semi space, things like that. Just doesn't mean it's not going to sell off, right? So anyway, so I'll continue to look for opportunities if the market finds more weakness tomorrow. ASML has been a great put hedge in 2025 and so far in 2026. That's ASML. And then Lam Research too. And Lam Research, unfortunately, didn't move as much as ASML. It was sitting there at 242. I'm trying to find some other put hedges. Got those 225s. It breaks under 240. I locked some in to cover some costs for close to 100%. And then we started to bounce. So I closed the last out for even. And boom, I think $6-7 off the highs in a matter of about 15 minutes. So at some point, if we do find weakness, another name I'll look for put hedges on. So those serve their purpose. And then this earliest morning, and 1-800-Flowers just hit the lows of the morning here. Let's see, it's at 460. But last 5-6 months, I've been trading FLOS, FLWS. High short interest story name that's kind of like been beaten to death because its growth has slowed down. You start looking, people think that their high debt is eventually going to be the end of them. I don't think that's the case. They've done some. Let's see. Sorry. Oh, Microsoft 431. Oh, I'm kicking myself. All right. So I'm trying to watch Microsoft, and I probably should have got some calls while I'm on here because it's another $3 the upside. All right. So anyway, so I got those strikes. Sorry, no, I'm distracted. But anyway, so a high short interest name, and I think especially with its earnings, that maybe it's the start of a move. I don't want to be chasing. Its 50-day moving average was $4. That's substantially over that. And now it's 200-day moving average 479. So I got those spec calls. They were up like 50%. Got over $5. The market sold off. It was sitting around 480 for most of the day, and actually just got a little downside here. But I'll just continue to hold those. Plenty of time on the February strikes. At some point, this takes off, and it's done it. I mean, you can see the candles. I don't have all the candles here. Did it back in the summer. Did it in the fall. I think we'll do it again. All right, that's that. And then other names I'll look for bounces. So I was talking about bounce plays on Reddit, right? So typically I'm trying to trade Reddit for bounce, especially on a day like today where we hit lows at 11 o'clock and now the SPY is $8 off the lows. You would think a name like Reddit, typically in the past, would be up 4, 5, 6%. It has not only is it not bounced, it's at the lows. So I don't know if something's broken, right? This morning it was over $200. Kicking myself for not getting to 210s. So maybe tomorrow's the day. Ironically enough, there'll probably be some catalyst or some kind of upgrade or something tomorrow, but I'm not gonna just trade it just to trade it. But watching that one, yeah, kicking myself. Microsoft 432. I'm trying to think of some of the other names. Oh, gold, right? So also markets are tumbling. Gold was at I think it was 5,400, and I'm like, GLL calls typically or GLD puts. I go to look at the GLD puts, and the premiums are insane. It's like unplayable for me to do. Typically, the market's not pricing in 2-3% of gold. It's like a less than 0.5% move. So because of that, it's like almost pointless to try and play it for upside or downside, at least for how I trade, because the risk reward's not there. So Also went to look at the miners, and Nugget is a name that if you're trying to do, the miner side of it, typically I would get the dust calls. Those are the 3-time bear ETF or 2-time bear ETFs. But Nugget was 310 or so. I was possibly going to get some puts. And again, similar thing, the premiums. I mean, actually, when it was $300 to 275s, didn't look too bad. But I mean, did you think it was going to drop 10% from the highs? So those are names. Maybe tomorrow, Friday, option expiration. You have less premiums into the options. Might be a little bit more opportunity to play them on both sides. So don't be surprised by a nibble. And I haven't traded gold in 3 or 4 months, thankfully. You know my thoughts. If you haven't heard, I don't have time to do my whole rant on gold, but obviously been wrong, right? But thankfully, I'm not one of those perma gold bug bear. I'm not I don't even know if there's a what would be called a gold bear. Uh, but I haven't been doing puts or holding puts for forever, right? I nibble. Typically, that's how I trade anyway. But at some point, you have to think there's going to be some pull. So anyway, that's it, folks. I'm trying to think of some of the other names here today. Zoom, right? So Zoom this morning, I was actually surprised I wasn't down more with the Microsoft because meetings and whatever they have. I forget. Of course, I have a brain fart. It's in here at $92. It's down 4%, but I actually think that's not too bad, all things considered. So not going to add any more calls just yet, but don't be surprised I had some strikes on Zoom. And that's it. Let's have a great day, folks. I'll be back rock and roll.